National Coming Out Day originated on October 11th, 1987, where 500,000 people marched in Washington, D.C. in support of lesbian and gay rights. And through today's event, we carry that spirit forward through recognizing the history of the march and by coming together in support of the LGBT community. And I want to thank our special guests and dignitaries in attendance today, because without your support, S.E.E.N and this event would not be possible. Councilmember Jimmy Flannigan, Councilmember Horry Houston, Councilmember Leslie Poole, Councilmember Ann Kitchen, Mayor Adler, and all the other council members who may not be here but are here in spirit and in support. Also with us today is Interim City Manager Elaine Hart, Assistant City Manager Sara Hensley, and Sara is not only our keynote speaker for today's event, but she also serves as the executive liaison for S.E.E.N. Also with us in attendance are Austin Energy General Manager Jackie Sargent, and I believe City Manager Ann Morgan as well. City Attorney Ann Morgan. And a special thank you to Stephen Elkins, Director of the Communications and Technology Management Department, and for their contribution to today's event. And one last very special recognition to two individuals who helped us form this resource network over the spring and this summer: Human Resources Director Joya Hayes and Assistant City Manager Mark Washington. The history of S.E.E.N is very short, and the group formation began in March of this year. But the city's history of wanting to form this group is not new and has been in the process for years. As we've come to find out, there have been at least 2, if not 3 different attempts to form an employee network or employee resource group for LGBTQ employees in previous decades. Well, this time it's stuck. And through the support and assistance of countless city employees and the support of city management and council, we worked over this spring and summer to organize, to create a charter, to vote on a board of directors, and to vote on the officers of the board. And at this time, I'd like for the S.E.E.N board to come up to the front to be recognized. Ricky Waite, Vice President. Matthew Ramirez, Secretary. Lauren Seda, Treasurer. Marty Byer, Board Member. Gina McKinley, Board Member. And Liz Jambor, Board Member. And once again, thank you all for being here and coming out to celebrate National Coming Out Day with us. We are honored by your presence, and we thank you all for your support. And I believe I'll hand it over to Miss Vegas Van Cartier again.
All right. We're going to move on to Elaine Hart, the Interim City Manager. She'll come on up here. Yay, make some noise for her, y'all. All right. You're very welcome. Oh, thanks.
I do love purple, but I want that dress. Well, good afternoon. I'm Elaine Hart, Interim City Manager, and it's my great honor to be here with you today in celebration of National Coming Out Day. Yes, I do support this organization. I'm proud to be the Interim City Manager that got the deal done. On this 29th anniversary of the March on Washington for gay and lesbian rights, we celebrate the power of speaking up. We reflect on the power that individual stories, your stories, have had on changing hearts and minds in our community and in the world. And we applaud and support your courage in sharing each of your stories. Hardly a day goes by without seeing or hearing about an event that painfully reminds us of the hate that exists in our world. But that doesn't mean we are a hateful people. We all have the capacity to love, be loved, and to appreciate each other and remember that each of us matters. We are all important. Whether you are LGBTQ or you care for someone who is, speaking up is the only way we together can empower advocates for equality and create a world that is safe and welcoming to all. The Stonewall Equality Employee Network, known as S.E.E.N, which we are so proud of, has been created by our city employees, for employees, to come together in a supportive work environment to learn from and share with one another. S.E.E.N is founded on welcoming and celebrating the uniqueness of all employees. We are a diverse community and all are welcome. I am so proud of the work that Interim Assistant City Manager Sara Hensley and Director Rodney Gonzalez, the S.E.E.N Board, and S.E.E.N members are doing to advance this important purpose. Each of you is here today, and you each have a story to tell. No matter who you are, each of you are important to all of us and have something to contribute and celebrate. I ask each of you to continue standing up, speaking out, and staying courageous. I know it hasn't always been easy. Thank you all for coming today in support of this important city employee network. It's been my honor to join you today, and please enjoy the rest of your program. And I think we'll probably have the young lady with the purple dress that I want come back.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to move on to the one and only, the extra fabulous Jimmy Flannigan. Y'all make some noise.
Let's hear it from Vegas, Van Cartier. Give her a round of applause. That's a trick you learn to do from drag queens. You always get a round of applause for the person you replace on the stage. And it's a true thing, and I saw it many, many years in a row growing up gay in this community. And if you attend enough of my political events in my district, you will recognize the moments that I'm imitating drag queens on the campaign trail. It's more frequent than you think. I am overjoyed to be here today. As you all know, I'm the first openly gay man to serve on the Austin City Council. And I think it's always important to remember that I stand on the shoulders of former Councilmember Randy Shade, who was the first LGBT person to serve, openly LGBT person to serve. And the legacy that Randy began, that I've continued on the council dais, that you all keep going forward on the staff side. And I also want to recognize my Chief of Staff, Marty Byer, who also worked for Councilmember Shade and now is my Chief of Staff in my office. And the rest of my staff and interns that are joining us today, please give my staff a round of applause. They work much harder than I do. It's true. I want to start just really by telling a little coming out story of my own. I came out on National Coming Out Day in 1996 as a UT student at the rally on campus. And I, kind of knew that I was gay, but I wasn't quite sure. And of course, 96 was a weird time. And I'm walking to class, and I walk past the rally, and I see it, and I kind of take the long way around, right? Because I don't want anybody to see me there. and I go to class, but it's in my mind. I can't hear the professor, I can't hear the lecture, it's just in my mind. So I walk back to my next class, and of course it takes me right by the rally. And I walk by the rally and I go to my next class, and I just can't get it out of my mind, and I've got a lunch break, and so I'm just gonna go hang out kind of in the back and just watch to see what this thing is. So I go back on the West Mall, if y'all can picture it, standing far, kind of in the corner, and I'm watching the proceedings go on, and I see a friend of mine from across the plaza catch my eye. He gets this big grin on his face. He walks right up to me and goes, "So, Jimmy, what are you doing here?" That began what was a whirlwind of coming out for me. I was in the Longhorn Band at UT for 5 years, and by all accounts was the gay poster child of the Longhorn Band for those years. Created rainbow necklaces. I had the professors wearing them. It was quite an incredible time. So this is my 21st anniversary of coming out, the first time. And as you all know, you don't just come out once. And the other story I want to tell you is from the campaign trail, from my first campaign in 14, right at the very beginning. And I think I've told this story about 1,000,000 times. And I'm talking to a small business owner in my district, and y'all know where District 6 is, right? I'm sure you have a picture of what District 6 is like. It's not what you think. It's much nicer than you think, I promise. So I'm talking to this small business owner that I've known for a while, and he stops me. It was May. I had just announced that I was going to run. He goes, "Look, I hear you're running for city council." I said, "Yeah." He's a big, kind of a burly guy. He goes, "Look, I don't agree with your lifestyle, and I just can't support it. But can you really fix traffic?" And this guy became a huge campaign supporter. To this day, a campaign supporter. And that moment repeated itself over and over and over throughout both of my campaigns in 14 and 16, and even to this day, talking to my constituents in the district and to folks all over the city. And I think it's a special story for you all in this room because that is the work that you all also have to do. We are trying our very best to do the very best for the city of Austin. And I think what we know for sure is that when we can be ourselves truly and honestly and authentically at work, we do better work. This organization that we have kicked off today, as Rodney said, stands on the shoulders of others that have tried and failed in the past. But I think this is a special era for us. There are unique challenges in our community and in the nation, and I think we have an opportunity to be a symbol of something bigger and something better, and at the end of the day, make the lives of everyone in Austin that much more fabulous. And I think that's the role that we can play. And I am so honored to be a council member that represents our community in addition to my district. And in addition to this work that you all are doing, and we've formed our LGBTQ Quality of Life Commission and other initiatives that are ongoing, it is a really exciting time, I think, to be in Austin. It is at least an interesting time to be in Austin. And I think I just want to end by thanking the Convention Center and the staff that put all this together. This is really a phenomenal venue, and all of the organizations that came here today, give them a round of applause. Go check out their tables. We do very important work at the city to keep this operation running, but our community needs more than anything the city can provide, and these are organizations that do that very important work in the public. So I want to end now. We have a proclamation. So Councilmember Houston, Councilmember Poole, if you join me at the front while we do this. I think, are there other council members in the room? I don't see them. Come on up. I should have asked you to come up earlier, and then I could have kept talking. I'm a politician. I can keep talking anyway. It's funny. They do the proclamations at city council meetings every week, every other week, and I don't do very many of them. I find that my district isn't asking for a lot of proclamations. So it's always a special thrill when I get to do one. And I'm proud to be joined by my colleagues, Councilmembers Poole and Houston, and I know that the mayor wishes he were here, and other council members that have reached out to me. And I'm sure that as this organization grows and this event grows, that we will find ourselves breaking and violating quorum every single year on National Coming Out Day to have the entire council here. So let me read the proclamation. Be it known that whereas on October 11th, 1987, 500,000 people participated in the second March on Washington for Lesbian and Gay Rights. This event was the catalyst for creating National Coming Out Day in 1988, which promotes the visibility of and support for the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, and all gender and sexual minority communities. And whereas National Coming Out Day is a day of self-affirmation and awareness, which is observed annually on October 11th by members of the LGBTQ communities, their families, friends, and allies. And whereas coming out, which is the public self-acknowledgement of belonging to the LGBTQ community, is not a one-time event. Every new job, school, neighborhood, or acquaintance can mean another coming out. And whereas the very act of coming out is a necessary step towards empowering people to live in truth, to inspire others to do so, and to show solidarity, compassion, and support for those who cannot. And whereas the guiding principles of the City of Austin's Stonewall Equality Employee Network align with National Coming Out Day in establishing an inclusive, safe, empathetic, supportive, and equal workplace at the City of Austin, celebrating the history of the complexities that have shaped the LGBTQ communities to create a safer workplace for all employees. Now, therefore, I, Jimmy Flannigan, City Council Member, here for Steve Adler, Mayor of the City of Austin, do hereby proclaim October 11th, 2017 as National Coming Out Day in Austin. Put a proclamation over. You want to get...
We'll go down together, girl. Thank you, my love. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to bring up our next speaker, the one and only Sara Hensley, the Interim Assistant City Manager. Y'all can make some noise. It's free. Come on now. Yes.
I'm in the same booth that Councilmember used to.
I saw it.
So thank you all for having me. I was honored when Rodney sent me the email asking me to speak, but what he didn't tell me is that I was like on the list of, Robin Roberts couldn't be here and some other folks, so I was as good as they could get. But today, I'm not used to talking about these things, so bear with me. This is a little hard for me. And so I thought Rodney asked me to share sort of my story, and I'll share with you my story. But first, I want to share with you about what's kind of happened in 10 years. Change has really occurred in our country. 10 years ago, Barack Obama announced he was running for president. 10 years ago, blackberries were a fruit. 10 years ago, green was just a color. 10 years ago, a tweet was something a bird did. 10 years ago, the iPhone came about. And 10 years ago, it didn't take you 3 hours to board a plane. Now, you can get a coach for life, for sex, for education, for cooking. You can get a coach for almost anything. There's an app for everything, and there's even an app to tell you about the apps. No one seems to look their age anymore. I mean, I'm actually 80. So I did come out when it was not cool. And you can find love online. Wow, what's amazing. How things have changed. In college, I used to tell my friends, if God would turn the lights out across the world, and it was completely dark, but all the LGBTQ community and people who had family members or friends that were gay would light up with a neon light, the world would light up. It's amazing, isn't it? Yet we find ourselves struggling each day because people are not accepting. Well, I have a story to tell you. I was born and raised in Arkansas. Yes, Arkansas. 48 out of 50 on education, and unfortunately, a home of the Knights of the Ku Klux Klan. When people ask me where I was born and raised, I tell them something similar to what Lance Armstrong used to say. I was born and raised in Arkansas, but I got out of there as fast as I could to go somewhere else where I felt more comfortable. My parents were born, both of them in the medical field. My mother was a nurse, my father was a doctor. He actually became the hometown doctor in Charleston, Arkansas, and was a business partner of Senator Dale Bumpers. My mother was a Southern lady from the get-go. There were 11 kids in the family. They were born and raised in North Carolina. And my father was born in San Antonio. I was the middle child. The Jan Brady. Well, actually, the Malcolm in the middle. I was open-minded. I was a person that liked to compromise. I was a risk taker. I was kind of the black sheep of the family. And my family really didn't know what to think about me because I just wanted to do things different. My mother really tried to push me like my sister, which was, you can imagine, tap, ballet, toe dancing, acrobatics, and jazz. So I went along until you had to wear the leotards and the tutus. I did. I participated and I performed, and I turned out to be quite a good dancer. But don't expect me to dance here today. I really wanted to be outside. I wanted to climb a tree. I wanted to be, when it rained, out in there digging for crawdads. I wanted to be outside. I wanted to shoot basketballs. And yes, I had a BB gun. But I hung out with my good buddy Gary Orr, and I many times think, where is Gary today? Because we set the yard on fire, which caused a major problem. In this small town in Arkansas of 2,500 people, you talk about feeling alone. I was alone. I was adventurous, and because I was alone, I created a special friend. My own buddy named Sara Hensley. That was my imaginary friend. They say people who have imaginary friends or have high intelligence IQ, well, we all know that's not the case for me, but I don't know what happened. But the truth is, I was different, and I felt different. But I could always count on Sara Hensley. I could remember one day, particularly, Dad coming home from the doctor's office, and we'd set a table for Sara Hensley, and he started to sit down. I said, "Oh, no, Dad, don't sit there. Sara Hensley is sitting there." And he quietly got up and said, "Excuse me, Sara Hensley, I'll move over here." At least he let me go on with my imaginary friend. As I moved through the grades, through junior high and high school, I decided I'd try to be more like my sister. So, guess what? I tried out to be a cheerleader. And I got it. Yeah, but I only lasted for 2 games because the truth is, I didn't want to stand up that whole time. So I got out of that as quick as I could. I was selected for the homecoming court as 9th grade maid. And as has it, I had to put on my skirt and my hose, and so I went home that afternoon to shave my legs. Unfortunately, the water heater was not heating up the water, so I shaved my legs and had little tiny bleeding spots all over my legs. Nothing seemed to go right in that world. My sister had Barbies. I thought that was kind of neat, too, because it had all those little pieces that went with it. But I also had the G.I. Joe. We both agreed on the Easy Bake Oven. You know what I'm talking about. They still have them. Who wouldn't want to cook your own pizza and brownies? My father passed away when I was almost 8 years old in a car accident on the way to the hospital. And so we were raised by my mother. And there were 3 of us, my brother, Todd, my sister, Beth. She wasn't supportive of me playing sports in school. I wanted to play sports. Her comment was, "Sarah, it's not ladylike." I didn't know to be upset, but as you can imagine, later on in life when I really thought I could have been a huge athletic star. I did take ballet. So I decided something's just not right. There's something not right. So I told my sister, I feel different. Something isn't right with me. Well, my sister loved me dearly, and we got along, we were best friends. So she worried, so she went to tell my mother that Sarah's not right. Well, we know that. I mean, that's just common sense. But, and my mother was like, well, what do you mean? And my sister went into it, and the next thing I know, I'm off to a psychiatrist. Now, here I am in my most formidable years, and I'm going to a psychiatrist because there's something just not right with me. And I thought for sure I was going to come out of there in a straitjacket or something. What happened, though, is the doctor told my mother after he had about a 45-minute conversation with me, let her be who she is. So here's what you got. So I was the student council vice president, the president of the student council, and the beta club, the FHA. I went to Girl State. I was in the band. I was in the honor society, and I graduated with honors. I went to the University of Arkansas and became a Razorback. Woo pig suey. But I found myself at the University of Arkansas. Oh yes, but I decided one more time to try to fit in. So I decided to follow in my sister's footstep again and go through Rush to be in a sorority. If any of you have ever been in a sorority, this was Delta Gamma. I went through the whole thing, and let me tell you, it drove me nuts because all it was a bunch of giggling people and all excited talking about what they were going to wear and painting their nails, and I'm thinking, for Pete's sake, what is this all about? I mean, it's just getting together, and then they interview you, and then you're selected, and most of it is selected on your looks and how your legacy and all the things that is wrong with the world today. So it was probably a good thing that I was accepted, and actually, believe it or not, Kappa Kappa Gamma, the Delta Gamma, 80 Pies, and Tri-Delts all wanted to rush me. So I don't know what it was about me, but I had found, I don't know, it was like maybe I found my calling in the wrong place. Well, thank goodness for Lynn, Kim, Paula, and others, Kelly, who were somewhat like me in Delta Gamma. When most of the girls were out on dates, we were home freezing their bras in the freezer. And getting water balloons ready to throw on them as they came home from their dates. Now, I dated, and I had a serious boyfriend, but I still knew something's just not right. So I came home one weekend, and my father had passed away, and my mother was still an active Republican, and I was in sweats. And I had on tennis shoes because I'd been at track practice. I figured, well, you weren't going to let me be in sports in high school, college, so I worked with the swim team and I was on the track team. I came home one day, I walked in, and she said, I hope you didn't wear that to class today. I was deflated. Not, how are you doing? How's track? I was deflated. It was time. It was time to tell and have the tough conversation. I sat down, I cleared my throat, I fidgeted, and I said, Mom, I need to tell you something. So I hemmed and hawed, and I looked at her and I said, I'm a Democrat. She passed out. She totally passed out. No, I'm just kidding. I told her I was gay. And she passed out then, too. I'll always remember what she said, though. Kind of like the businessman that said, Sarah, I don't approve of it, but I'll accept it. And I struggled. I even dropped out of college for a semester, and when I came back, I had to pay for it, so I didn't do that again. I followed up with my sister and my brother, who my brother was like, I knew it. It's not a big deal. And my sister who said, well, Sarah, we knew, I had, when you told me back then, and, Mom was so worried and sent you to a psychiatrist. I finished my graduate degree. I was very successful in college and then into different jobs in Virginia Beach, Virginia, and San Jose, California, and Phoenix, Arizona, and now in Austin. And my mom, during that time when I just was finishing, still in my graduate, passed away from cancer. And my sister called one day, years, and goes, Sarah, I've got something to tell you. And I'm thinking, oh my God, she's gay, but she's married and she has 2 kids. She goes, I was watching TV today, and it was a talk show, and I just want you to know, you were born this way. It's not a choice. And I'll be honest with you, I just said, oh, shit, really? And then she went on to apologize and say, I'm so sorry of how Mom treated you. She didn't know. And she's right, she didn't know. So fast forward on, that I met my soulmate, my life partner, the person I've been with now for 30 years. She's sitting right here. Later in life, and I mean later in life because some people think I'm the boy's grandmother. Try explaining that. We decided to have children, and I was so excited. I was looking online every day for adoptions and things because I didn't know we could have 2 beautiful boys. But we were in California at the time, and we went through the cryobank, and we now have 2 wonderful boys, twin boys, Connor and Jackson. They both carry Ramey's mother's maiden name and my mother's maiden name, Connor Davis and Jackson Taylor. They are thriving. They're active in school, and we became a family. And what a perfect place in California to find acceptance and to be able to go through everything and not be judged. But I have to tell you one more story. When we were going to have the boys, we decided to tell Ramey's parents. Both my parents were dead. My sister had passed away. And her brother, Kevin, both her brothers were gay. And one had passed away from HIV. And Kevin came down from Hollywood, California, and he was so excited he couldn't stand it. And he couldn't, you knew he couldn't keep a secret because we were like, don't tell Harold and JoJo. We want to wait and tell them at dinner. And so we go out to eat at a nice place. Before we go to pick Kevin up at the airport, we went to what was the name of the store? Babies R Us. And I was joking and saying things like, well, my friend is having twins, and we need to find a stroller. And so Ramey's dad, being the way he was, goes, don't be cheap, Sarah. Get your friend this nice Cadillac version of a... And I just looked at him like, oh, this is great. And so we go to dinner, and Ramey hands her mom a card, and her mom's like, I know what this is. I know what this is. This is. We're going to have a baby. Kevin's over here going, yes, we are. And not just one. We're going to have 2. And Harold's over there going, who's having a baby? And he's just standing there next to the lady who's going to take his drink, and he's just was going to order a margarita because that's his favorite drink. And Kevin's over here, yes, 2, look. And he goes, who's having a baby? And Kevin goes, you are, you're going to be a granddad. And he goes, but who's having twins? He goes, you are, you're going to be. He goes, I'll have a double. So they went home, and it came time for Thanksgiving, and they were passing around a basket, putting notes in there of what they were thankful for. And Joanne wrote on a piece of paper, I'm thankful because I'm going to be a grandmother finally. And so everybody in the room, in the family, was reading it, and finally they're like, who's having a baby? And they start going through all the people in the room, and you all know what I'm talking about now, because they're going through all the people in the room, and they're saying, and then finally they look, Joanne, are Sarah and Ramey going to get another dog? Classic. No, we're having twins. Well, we struggle, just like every other couple, to balance work and life. We serve as taxi drivers for our 2 active young men who play football, basketball, and are eating us out of house and home. As a matter of fact, it got me so scared that I thought they had a tapeworm. Our house is where all the kids in the neighborhood come. Doesn't matter. We hang out mostly with what's considered to most the normal families. We're the life of the party. We're teaching our boys to be kind and respectful for all people. We teach them to give back and stand up for what is right and to give a helping hand to those in need. Now, Connor kind of took that to the next level when, in school now, whether you're in junior high, high school, or even elementary school, you get a number, a code to enter in the system. and it was like a credit card for Connor. And so if he had some friends with him, he'd say, hey, do you need anything? Because I can just put it on my tab. And Ramey had to say, Connor, why is your balance is always down? Well, Alex didn't have any money, and Connor's dad didn't give any money. I said, honey, if the parents can afford it, that's one thing, but we can't just be buying everybody some snacks or drinks or whatever. So we took care of that. I started with the things that have changed, and some things have. But unfortunately, not all things have changed for the good. The world as we know it has changed rapidly, but freedoms and rights are once again being tested, and unfortunately, sometimes they're lost. Discrimination and hate, they're spread around like a virus in the world today. Groups of people, part of our community, are having their rights brought up again and put them on trial. Really? Muslims, Latinos, women, and people with disabilities were mocked by a presidential candidate, who I will not mention, who's now the president. A young white man opened up fire into a room with 9 African Americans who welcomed him into a Bible study. A lone gunman opened up fire in a well-known gay club in Orlando, where gays and straights went. That was a balloon. And then Vegas. Not this Vegas. We do love you, but the Vegas situation, which melts my heart. I could go on, but I won't. But what I do know is that groups of people like you and others all over the country are fighting hate and standing up to promote tolerance and inclusion. The city of Austin is one of those groups. And you, Councilmember Houston, and you, Councilmember Poole, and you, Councilmember Flannigan, and the rest of this council deserve a big round of applause for standing up for what's right. So here's what I have to say. In my eyes, love is love. And all lives matter. There is no human being that is illegal. Religious diversity is a good thing. We learn. And all genders are whole, and they're good. And so thank you for having me here today. Thank you for listening to my story. It is a true one. I wanted to start off with the Beverly Hillbillies song, but I thought that might be a little bit too much. And I want to say thank you to Rodney and the members of the board, and I also want to say one more thing. I have the pleasure of being the liaison on the LGBTQ Commission. And if you ever want to see the true meaning of diversity, you come to that meeting. Those individuals sat there one day to try to select 4 more individuals to serve on this commission. And you know what they said? Who's not at the table? Look around, and who's not at the table? Even if it's a divergent view, who's not at the table? Now that, my friends, is inclusion. Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go into our vendor speakers. Can we have Paul Scott of the AIDS Services of Austin come up here? Come on up. Give him a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen.
One more announcement. This isn't part of the program because it's a surprise. So if you look around, you might think that, oh my God, it took months to do all the preparation for this event. And I can tell you there was only 6 weeks to prepare for everything today. And so there are 3 special people that the board wants to recognize who led the effort for today's event. 2 of them are seated to my right, Aaron Brown and Al Carmona. As well, Don Spinoza. Don, if you could come here, we have special gifts for the 3 of you. So thank you all for your efforts for putting today's event together. And once again, a big round of applause to Interim Assistant City Manager Sara Hensley. What a beautiful keynote. Thank you.